This is nothing more than my opinion, and for this I'm going to exclude Rhino because, well, he's the first frame you should come across for the part because he's on Venus, and the starting frames, which is Excalibur, Mag and Volt. That doesn't mean older starter frames won't be in this, so let's just jump straight in. With the antimatter absorb augment, Nova is actually ridiculously useful, but it's mainly her molecular prime that people tend to go for when it comes to her, because if you build it for strength, it'll slow enemies down, and if you build it for range using the overextend mod and no strength mod, so it's minus strength, well, it's not really minus strength, it's just less than 100%, so really it is minus, but that's a whole mathematical issue. It'll actually speed them up. So a speed Nova is basically a Nova that has no strength mods and just uses overextend, which is great for her wormhole thing, because it means you can get across the map in a split second. But that antimatter absorb, I'm trying to think, it's a second ability, yeah, makes her ridiculously useful. That's ignoring her first ability, which is also useful depending where you actually take her. I mean, come on, he was a starting frame for a reason. Having the ability to switch places with enemies, you can also put a decoy out that you can use radial disarm, which is his uber ability, and they'll literally just run up to the decoy and start mailing it, because radial disarm makes them drop the guns and go melee, which means that they have to get close to you, which makes them great when you're trying to level up any kind of melee weapon. But his party trick is basically the ability to go invisible, which means you get the undetected bonus for the extra affinity. But he also becomes really useful for spy missions, because being seen in a spy mission sets off the timer that makes everything, it can make it fail pretty badly, and in sorties, kind of being invisible is really useful. Unless, of course, you're like me and then you run into the lasers, which, well, that's just not a good idea. Yes, World on Fire makes her basically able to take out anything within a certain range, depending how you build her. If you're running basically just World on Fire, you want kind of range with power, as much power strength as you can get, but you also need duration and efficiency, so it's kind of really hard to set her up, but you get her just right and World on Fire becomes really useful. But the trick is, if you use accelerant on top, hence the duration part of building her, you become more stronger. And that's of course ignoring things like the Fireball and Fire Blast, which is the first and third abilities, are also useful because, well, Fire Blast sets fire to the floor, whereas Fireball sets fire to enemies. So she is ridiculously, I really don't want to say overpowered, but it literally depends on how you build her. If you want to run health and shield mods, you've got to build her weirdly, but it's just the fact that she can take out so much so quickly. Come on, you must have seen this coming, right? His Snow Globe is insanely useful in defense missions. It's also really fun to try and push enemies off cliffs with it as well, or just off the edge of the map with it. But if you do try and use it, just make sure you don't get stuck trying to put it in weird places. His other abilities are useful too. Freeze, if you shoot the floor in front of an enemy, when they run over it, it'll actually slow them down. Shooting it at them can actually freeze them. Ice Wave can basically do the same thing, but it gets wider the further it goes out, so it's like kind of like Freeze, but better. And then of course there is Avalanche, which is basically his AoE attack, and well, it does come in useful when you get yourself stuck from that earlier putting snow globes up in the wrong place. But the fact that it's also useful for taking out just hordes of enemies, and it has a chance of freezing them in place for a certain amount of time, means that building Frost, you kind of want range and strength. The range and strength will also help with his bubble, which will help with defense missions and even when you go to pick up a downed ally, the bubble will come in, well, the snow globe will come in ridiculously useful. But of course, being more of a tanky frame, having health shields and armor mods as well, means that you can stand there and take the damage, so you don't need to put snow globe up. Plus, of course, he's frost, so you know he's super cool. Of course, as I said earlier, this is just my opinion on the 4 frames that you basically must have. There are other ones I could add to this. I could have made it 5, 10. I was just going to do 3, but I just couldn't. I had to settle with the 4. Want to see more videos like this? Then don't forget to leave a like, subscribe, and comment telling me how lame it is to ask people to subscribe. And of course, thanks for watching.